My name is Maggie Patterson. I'm the video technician today, and Bethany Bellafato is the court reporter. Today is the 12th day of September 2018. The time is 10:01 a.m. We are at the offices of Kentuckiana Reporters located in New Albany, Indiana, to take the deposition of Landon Samuel in the matter of Brenda Mizell and Darren Mizell versus City of Fort Lauderdale. Pending in the Circuit Court of Broward County, Florida, case number 2013-CA-025419. Will counsel please identify themselves for the record?
Billy Walker on behalf of plaintiffs Brenda and Darren Mizell.
Jeff Lawley for the City of Fort Lauderdale.
Sir, will you please raise your right hand to be sworn in by the reporter?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Samuel, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Just fine. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Billy Walker. I represent a lawsuit Ms. Mizell brought against the City of Fort Lauderdale in relation to an incident in 2012 where she's alleged she was struck and injured by one of the city's lifeguard vehicles. What is your current address? Have you had any different addresses since 2012?
Yes, sir. We lived
in session from 2012 forward?
In 2012 until July of 2017. We lived at
Okay, and you haven't had any other residences other than the two that you've listed so far?
No, sir. Not since 2012.
What's your date of... Go ahead, sorry.
Not since 2012.
Okay. What's your date of birth? Have you ever given a deposition before?
No, sir. I don't believe so.
Okay, I'll give you kind of a brief explanation of kind of the rules that we go by. If this is a question and answer process, I will, because especially since we're on the phone, I will do my best to let you finish your answer before I start with my next question. I know there's a little bit of an echo, but try to let me finish my question so we don't talk over each other. That way the court reporter can get a clean record, okay?
Okay.
If you need me to repeat a question or you don't understand it, let me know and I'll do that. If you understand or if you answer a question, I'll assume that you understood it. Is that fair?
Sure.
And last, I don't think this will come into play in this deposition, but if for any reason you need a break, just let us know and we'll accommodate you, okay?
Fine. Thank you very much.
If you would, please give me a brief description of your educational background.
I have a Master of Divinity degree, Lexington Theological Seminary. That's the highest degree that I've earned.
Okay. Do you have any other educational certificates or anything like that?
I have a bachelor's degree from Freed-Hardeman University, Henderson, Tennessee, of course, high school diploma. And then professionally, I have Indiana State insurance licenses, life, health, property, casualty, and I also have the Series 6 and 63 securities licenses as a registered representative.
Can you tell me about sorry.
Just as a registered representative.
Can you tell me about the duties of your job right now?
I'm a State Farm insurance agent.
What all does that entail?
The sale and service of insurance, handling claims, at least to some degree handling claims, and customer interaction on a daily basis.
You said to some degree handling claims. Could you flesh that out a little bit? Tell me about what you meant by that.
Well, I'm not a claim adjuster. I'm not an estimator, but I certainly am an advocate on behalf of my customers to estimators and claim representatives if there are issues or problems in a claim. And then there are some few claims that State Farm authorizes me to handle out of my office. Simple and fairly low-cost claims I can I can handle those in my own office through what's called agent's draft.
Again, we're here today to talk about an incident that happened back in 2012. Can you tell me where you were on Tuesday, April 10th, 2012?
We had just traveled to South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area from out of Louisville, Kentucky for a vacation, and had just arrived that day in Fort Lauderdale.
You said we. Who were you with?
My wife and I.
And why were your wife and you in Fort Lauderdale?
We were on vacation. We had an earned trip through State Farm, a cruise that was leaving out of Fort Lauderdale a day or two later, and we had gone down. I can't remember if we went down one day early or 2 days early, but we went down a day or two early to relax a little bit and make sure that we didn't have the hassles of frantically getting from the airport to a cruise ship to make the embarkation time.
What did you and your wife do on Tuesday, April 10th, 2012?
Flew from Louisville to Fort Lauderdale. Got a shuttle from the airport to the hotel where we were staying. Got checked in, acclimated to our room a little bit, and headed to the beach.
What did you see while you were at the beach?
Other than, normal beach things, people laying out on the beach and water and sand, the incident that I guess we're talking about, which is the injury that the incident was where injuries were sustained by, is her name?
I'll represent to you that my client's name is you.
Okay, and I did not know her name prior to receiving documentations about this deposition. Please describe what you saw. What you called the incident. Please describe what you saw. My wife and I had walked down to the beach. We were walking toward the water from. There was a parking lot area and a street behind us. We were walking toward the water. We walked past a lifeguard. I'd call it a shack, a lifeguard hut. It was on our left, and was to our right, sunbathing, and we walked past her and had gotten just past her a short distance, and then made a turn. For us, it would have been to the right, to walk parallel with the water, and within a few seconds, I don't know, maybe 30, 45 seconds, something like that, of passing her and the lifeguard hut, we heard screams. Turned around and saw that she was trapped underneath a vehicle driven by one of the lifeguards. We had noticed as we walked past the lifeguard hut that there was a lifeguard, presumably the one assigned to that location, standing outside the vehicle, talking to another lifeguard sitting inside the vehicle. And they were sitting there talking, just, I don't know if they were talking about the work or personal items. That didn't make a whole lot of difference. They were talking. So we'd seen the vehicle there, but then didn't pay too much attention to it at the time until after we heard the screams.
Did you ever see the vehicle moving?
I did not, no.
Can you describe the individual that I've confirmed to you? Can you describe to me what she looked like when you saw her before the incident occurred?
Well, I didn't see her face. Her face was covered with a T-shirt. I mean, she was in a bathing suit, I think a two-piece bathing suit, laying on the sand, or may have been on, I think just on the sand. And had a t-shirt across her face, presumably to keep the sun off of her face. But there wasn't anything remarkable about, about seeing her. She's like a lot of other folks laying on the beach. She happened to be in very close proximity to where we were walking.
Did you see any cones or anything else? Strike that. Did you see any cones that were out in that area?
You mean like traffic cones?
Did you see any cones of any type that are out in that area?
Are you talking about like to mark an area or something? Ice cream cone?
Generally, I want to know. I'll let you finish. I apologize.
If you're talking about what I would call a traffic cone, no. Didn't see any kind of
other types of cones out in the area.
I don't believe I did.
Could you please describe the scream that you testified that you heard? Please describe it for us.
No, it was a scream. It was obviously someone who was either in severe pain or scared. It was a pretty frantic scream. I didn't.
After you heard, sorry, go ahead.
Like I say, I didn't distinguish any. I don't remember any words being said, but I certainly remember a very loud, very shrill scream.
What happened? Strike that. What happened after you heard the scream?
Well, it got my attention, my wife's attention. We turned around and we saw the vehicle. I believe it was a Ford Sport Track. Over top of where she was. We could hear the scream. We bent down and we could see her pinned underneath the truck. And so we weren't very far away. I don't know, a few yards, maybe 10 yards away, 15 yards away, something like that. And ran over to the truck to see what we could do or how we could help to remedy the situation.
What did you do after you got to the truck?
I told the lifeguard who was driving the truck not to move the truck. She said she seemed not to know what had happened. She was trying to figure out where the screams were coming from. It appeared to me that she didn't quite have figured out what was going on. She knew there was a problem. She'd stopped the truck, and we said something to the effect, "You've run over this lady. There's a lady underneath your vehicle." She said she was going to move the truck, and we said, "No, absolutely don't move the truck. Don't move it. We'll get her out." And by that point, another 2 or 3 people perhaps had come over, at least one other lifeguard, and we began to dig the sand away out from under Miss Mizell so that she wouldn't be trapped under the truck, and we could then move her out from underneath it without having to move the truck.
Describe for me where she was, her Miss Mizell's body was located under the truck.
I would say about midpoint, both directions. Her head would have been about where the front tires of the truck would be. Her feet would have been about where the rear tires would have been. And she was probably about the center of the truck between driver's side and passenger side. Pretty well centered underneath the truck, fully underneath.
Did you ever see any part of her body in contact with the bottom of the truck?
Oh yeah, all of her body that was face up was in contact with the truck. I mean, it was it was pressing against her. She had no place to go. And if we hadn't dug underneath her in the sand, fortunately the sand was soft and easy to dig, but if we hadn't been able to do that, it'd have been worse. But she could not move. She couldn't dig herself out. She didn't have free access of her arms. Her face had been covered with I don't think she had a clue what was going on. I think she was absolutely hysterical, trying to figure out what's going on. My assumption is that she was asleep. She appeared to be sleeping when we walked past her, and that she was awakened to something on top of her, pressing against her, and she didn't know what it was. That in my mind, that's what was going on for her. I don't think she had a clue what was going on.
When you saw Miss body underneath the truck, describe the positioning of her arms.
She had pulled them up. As best I recall, she was fighting the bottom of the truck. Now she had very, very, very limited mobility, but to the best of her ability, she was fighting, trying to push off or push away from the bottom of the truck. It was a futile effort, but like I said, I think it was as much out of instinct as anything. I don't think she knew what was on top of her.
You testified earlier that you and others dug Miss out from under the truck, dug the sand out.
Yes.
And pulled her out. What happened after that?
We pulled her out from underneath the truck, and she was still laying down. But on the driver's side of the truck, and at that point there were lifeguards present, and I kind of got out of the way. I'm not trained in first aid like a lifeguard would or should be. They were present. It was their job. I had done really all I felt we could do at that point to provide personal assistance. She was clear of the truck. At that point, she just needed medical assistance, and I wasn't qualified to provide that.
What did you see the lifeguards? What interaction did you witness between the lifeguards?
One of the lifeguards immediately sat her up from a resting position and began to sort of dust her off and indicate they didn't think she was hurt. They thought she'd be fine. Let's sort of let her get her bearings again, and I think things are going to be fine. I didn't agree with that. My wife didn't agree with it. We didn't think she should have been set up. Again, I'm not trained as a lifeguard. I'm not trained with first aid, but good common sense and just life experience with emergencies that come up normally in life. You don't assume somebody's okay, especially if they've potentially been injured severely. You don't set them up. You don't move them around. You don't assume they're okay. You get them checked out by a medical professional, well above the level of a lifeguard.
What was the lifeguard that was driving the truck doing at the time that you pulled Miss out front of the truck? Well,
I believe at that point she was still inside the truck. I'm not 100% sure if she was still in the truck or not. Our focus wasn't on anything but getting this lady out from underneath the truck. It's possible that she could have. I mean, the truck wasn't moving. It's possible she could have gotten out of the truck. She may have helped dig her out. I know that the other lifeguard that was at the the lifeguard shack, standing outside the truck when we walked past. I believe he was there and helped dig out. I believe those two lifeguards were the ones that were present, and so if that's the case, she would have at some point had to have gotten out of the truck to assist in getting her free of the truck, and then to sort of do some initial assessment of her situation.
Can you describe any movements that you saw Miss made that weren't assisted, that were movements that were not assisted by the lifeguards?
It seems to me like she seemed to be very dazed, very uncertain what was going on. So she, maybe rubbing her head, rubbing her face, trying to, again, the kind of things that you would do sort of instinctively if you're trying to figure out what in the world is going on here. Again, she's laying on the beach. I presume her face was covered, so I don't know, but I presume she was asleep, and she's awakened by this truck on top of her, and now she's got being pulled out from underneath the truck, and people surrounding her, 4 or 5 people surrounding her. I don't have any idea what was going on in her mind, but the movement she was making would have been, normal kind of hand and arm movements of rubbing your face, rubbing your eyes, trying to figure out what's going on. But she was laying on the sand until she was sat up. She was assisted and encouraged to sit up by the lifeguard or guards, and then she remained sitting on the sand for the rest of the time that I was there nearby.
After you said that you backed off when the lifeguards were there with her. Mm-hmm. What happened after that?
Well, the lifeguard, I believe it was the female lifeguard, although I don't know that's the case. But one of the lifeguards suggested, I think she's okay, I think she'll be all right. Let's let her sit here for a minute, and then we'll help her up, and I think she'll be fine. And my wife and I said, somebody needs to call an ambulance. This lady, we can't assume she's fine, and so an ambulance needs to be called. And they did not appear to me to be particularly interested in calling an ambulance or calling the police, and I advised them if they didn't, I would. That somebody needed to call an ambulance, and that the police needed to be called. And at that point, they did. I don't think I didn't have my cell phone with me, so I'm certain I didn't call anybody, but I would have. It was incomprehensible to me that something like that would happen and an ambulance wouldn't be called, and that a police report wouldn't be filed. I couldn't comprehend that.
How long was it before the police and EMS showed up?
It wasn't very long. I don't know, 5 minutes maybe, 10 minutes. It was a fairly short, reasonable amount of time. And it wasn't a great length of time after we retrieved her from underneath the truck that call was made. So not a lot of time that had transpired. But I think if we had not insisted that an ambulance be called, I don't think one would have been called. And I don't think that Miss was in any condition to insist herself that an ambulance be called. I think she was still too dazed. I don't know if shock is the right word, but she was still not really capable of making those kinds of decisions. I didn't think.
Motion is right.
What did you see after the cops and the EMS arrived?
They asked if there were witnesses, and my wife and I said that we had been there, and so that they said let's step away from here so we can talk to you. And so a couple of police officers walked my wife and I away from the beach over to a sidewalk area out near the parking lot. They talked to both of us together for a few minutes, and then one took my wife and the other took me, and we went to I went to the police officer that interviewed me. I went to his car, and we sat in the parking lot some distance away in his car. I'm guessing an hour and a half, some fairly lengthy period of time, asking questions, getting lots of information relative to what had happened, what we had seen, or what had transpired.
You testified that it was incomprehensible, or you strike that earlier. You testified that it was incomprehensible to you that an ambulance wouldn't be called. Why is that?
Well, I wouldn't be willing to assume that if a vehicle, if you're trapped underneath a vehicle, I don't think it's reasonable to assume that person's okay. They could be. Yeah, once they've been checked out medically, perhaps it's discovered they're okay. But you've got to at least determine that, and you have to have somebody who's capable of determining that. And I knew I wasn't capable of determining that, and I don't think that anybody, even a trained medical professional, with just a naked eye sitting on the beach, could make that determination. I think they would need to go to a hospital and be checked out, perhaps X-rays, perhaps other things. I don't know, but it made no sense at all to me that you would just assume she was fine. A few minutes earlier, I had seen that vehicle on top of her and her trapped underneath it. I have to believe the underside of the vehicle was hot. The exhaust system is under there. The engine is exposed on the bottom side. The engine, the front end of the vehicle had gone directly above her face and above her arms and her chest. She was in a bathing suit. She had no protection. It's incomprehensible to me that you could assume that somebody would have experienced that and they're fine. I don't think you can make that assumption.
I don't have any more questions.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Samuel.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm Jeff Lawley, and I represent the city of Fort Lauderdale.
All right, sure, thank
Can you
you.
hear me okay, sir?
Yes, just fine, thanks.
I appreciate you appearing today and taking your time to talk to us. I want to ask you a couple of questions about your observations on the beach when you were there with your wife when this incident happened.
Okay.
Now, you had testified about your interactions, and I'm not sure if you had covered this, but do you recall anything specifically that Ms. said to anybody at the scene?
No, I don't really remember her. I don't really remember her speaking or saying anything. Perhaps she did, I don't recall anything that she said, or any response that she made. I don't recall.
Okay. So after you had removed yourself from the scene, how far away from the area of the vehicle and were you?
Initially, we were probably, it's hard to judge distance. I'm guessing 30 or 40 yards away. I don't know how deep the beach is there, but where we were, it seems like there was a parking area, parking lot, like for public parking. It was a public beach. It wasn't a private beach for our hotel. It was a public beach, and it seems to me that there was a parking lot, maybe a sidewalk on the beach side of the parking lot. And initially, the police took us back to that. There's a little wall there, like a concrete wall, 18 inches, 2 feet tall, something like that, just a little barrier. And they took us back to that parking lot area, sidewalk area, talked to us for a few minutes, and then we went to their respective vehicles, which were somewhere in that parking area, in the parking lot. So I don't know how far it would have been. Maybe, again, 20, 30, 40 yards away. I don't know. Far enough away that we were no longer really present for anything that took place after the police and the ambulance arrived.
All right, sir. Can you tell the jury when the paramedics were called?
I would guess they were called maybe 5 minutes after, within 5 minutes or so of the time she was retrieved from underneath the vehicle.
Do you know who called the paramedics?
I do not. I know that the lifeguards did not indicate they were going to, and my wife and I insisted that an ambulance and the police be called, and indicated that if they didn't, we would. And at that point, somebody, but I don't know who.
Do you know if paramedics had already been called prior to that exchange?
I do not. But I don't believe they had been called by. I had no way of confirming whether or not they had. Again, that's one of those things I wouldn't have assumed. Oh, somebody's probably already called an ambulance. That wouldn't be a good assumption.
But you don't know for sure.
You're correct. That's correct.
Paramedics or they did.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, at any time that you were observing the interaction between the lifeguards and Ms. Did you see them providing comfort to her?
If by comfort, do you mean asking her, "Are you okay? Let us help you sit up and just relax a little bit." And other than that, if that's what you mean by comfort, yes. I didn't see them offer any medical attention. They had nothing to offer medical attention. They didn't have any equipment or anything.
Did you ever, strike that. Was it apparent to you that they were trying to calm her down?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Did you ever see any of the lifeguards apply any oxygen mask?
No.
Did you ever see any of the lifeguards apply a C-collar to the neck?
No.
Did you ever see the lifeguards strap to a backboard?
No.
Did you see who actually removed from the beach area?
I did not. I assumed it was the EMTs when the ambulance arrived.
Okay. Do you know whether the lifeguards themselves carried to meet the ambulance in the parking lot?
I do not know that, no, sir.
From your experience and your assistance in helping dig out, was she removed from out beneath the vehicle in a quick and timely manner?
As quickly as we could get to her, yes, sir.
Okay. Was there any delay in digging her out and getting her out from under the vehicle?
No, I wouldn't say there was.
After you were removed from the scene, did you and your wife essentially go about your way and go on your vacation?
Yes, sir.
And assuming after you finished with the police officers and giving your remarks about what you observed, did you have any other further involvement with the investigation?
No, sir. By the time the police officers were done questioning us, again, it was probably at least an hour and a half we spent individually with police officers, and then a few minutes prior to that. So it'd been quite some length of time. The accident scene was cleared. The beach seemed to be pretty much back to normal, and we never heard any follow up. Never heard anything additional about this incident until about maybe a month ago. And
Tell us what happened a month ago.
my wife got a phone call on her cell phone from me, and she asked her if she was someone who had been present that day at the beach, and Sherry said yes, she had, and she told her that she was the lady who had been injured and wanted to know. She said, I just want to know what happened. I just want to know what happened. And at that point, I was away from the house. When I came in, my wife said, "You'll never guess who I just got a phone call from." And she told me. I was shocked. I didn't know exactly how many years had passed, but it had been a long time. We'd never heard a single word from anybody ever after we left the beach that day. Until again.
Did you ever learn why you were being contacted?
No, I did not. Not until we were contacted by the attorney's office.
When you were contacted by the attorney's office, was that the attorneys from?
Yes, I believe so.
And was that to give a deposition today?
That is correct.
As you tested. Were you told at that time that this case was set for trial?
I don't know if we were told that or not. I gathered that information, I guess, in the course of setting up this interview, this deposition. So I don't know if I was told that at that time or not, but I did gather that.
Did you ever receive any phone calls from my office, the law office of Billing, Cochran, Lyles, Morrow, and Ramsey?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
I thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
I just have one follow-up question. Mr. Samuels, can you hear me okay?
Yes, just fine.
From your observations and communications with the lifeguards that were at the scene immediately after Miss was removed from underneath the truck,
Right.
what would have happened? What would those lifeguards have done had you and your wife not been present?
Objection in form.
I felt as if they would have dusted her off and helped her to her feet and sent her on her way.
Thank you for your time. I don't have anything else. Mr. Samuels, you can read your deposition for any errors. Or if you want to, you have the right to make the decision either way. They can print it out and you can read it and check over it, make sure there aren't any errors. Or you can waive the reading if you don't, if you're okay with what you said here today.
Yeah, I'm willing to waive the reading.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time again. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
The time is 10:42 and we are off the record.